Hello and welcome to the Snoozy Scientist, where we explore big science mysteries in a calm, soothing way, perfect for drifting off to sleep. Tonight, we're heading into the strange corners of the Earth, places that laugh gently at science, defy explanation, and make you wonder if someone spilled a bit of dream onto the planet and forgot to clean it up. We're talking about places that feel like Earth glitched just a little, where water boils without fire, where rocks move across the desert on their own like they got tired of standing still, where mountains look like sleeping people, and forests that seem to breathe when no one's watching. Some of these spots are beautiful, some are eerie, and some will make you wonder if Mother Nature is playing a prank on us. And the best part? They're all real. These places shouldn't exist, at least not according to physics, geology, or basic common sense, but somehow they do. I've made this video to be as soothing and restful as possible, the kind of atmosphere that helps your thoughts settle and your breath slow down. But a gentle warning, the places we're visiting tonight might keep your mind awake just a little longer, not from restlessness, but because they're just that beautiful, that strange, that unforgettable. And if they do stretch your bedtime by a few extra minutes, I hope it's only because you're wide eyed in wonder, imagining the surreal corners of our planet where reality bends. Before we wander too far, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Drop a comment and tell me your city or what time it is where you're winding down. Whether you're lying in bed, sipping tea, or just hoping your brain stops narrating its own documentary, I'm grateful to be part of your evening. And if these gentle explorations help you sleep or simply give your thoughts a softer place to land, please tap like and subscribe. It helps this little snoozy corner of the internet stay alive, and it helps others like you find us. Now, take a slow breath. Let the weight of the day melt away. And let's begin. Danakil Depression, Ethiopia, the hottest, most alien place on Earth. A neon nightmare of acid, lava, and living colors in a land that seems to reject life, yet somehow teems with it. Tucked away in northeastern Ethiopia lies a place so surreal it feels like Earth forgot to finish rendering it properly. The Danakil Depression is one of the strangest, most extreme landscapes on the planet, and one of the hottest, too. Temperatures here can soar past 50 degrees Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit, making it nearly unbearable for most forms of life. And yet, here it is, alive, vibrant, and utterly bizarre. Imagine a land where the ground bubbles with acid, where pools of toxic water shimmer in unnatural colors, glowing yellows, piercing greens, deep oranges, as if someone spilled a palette of radioactive paint across the desert. Crusty salt plains stretch for miles, crunching underfoot like cracked porcelain. Steam hisses from vents in the earth. Gases rise in invisible waves that sting the nose and blur the eyes. If Mars and Venus had a baby and left it in East Africa, it might look a lot like this. The Danakil Depression sits at the meeting point of three tectonic plates, the African, Arabian, and Somali plates, and they're slowly pulling apart. This tearing of the Earth's crust creates constant geological drama, active volcanoes, boiling sulfur springs, earthquakes, and lava lakes that glow like portals to another world. It's Earth in its rawest, most rebellious form, loud, hot, and constantly shifting. At first glance, it doesn't seem like anything could live here. The air is harsh, the water is acidic, and the land smells faintly of eggs left in the sun. And yet somehow life has found a way. Scientists have discovered tiny microorganisms living in the acidic pools, thriving in conditions that would melt most living things. These extremophiles, as they're called, are like the daredevils of biology, living where no sane organism would dare. Studying them helps researchers understand how life might exist on other planets, in places just as extreme. And speaking of life, the Afar people, one of the toughest communities on Earth, have called this region home for generations. They mine salt by hand, carving bricks from the crusty plains and loading them onto camel caravans that move slowly through the shimmering heat. It's a job passed down through centuries, done in silence under a sun that never seems to blink. Walking through the Danakil Depression feels like trespassing on a world that isn't quite ours. The ground bubbles and spits, the colors are too bright, the silence is loud in your ears. You almost expect to see something from a science fiction movie rise up from the sulfur clouds and nod at you as if to say, "Welcome to the edge of Earth." But despite its harshness, or maybe because of it, the Danakil is mesmerizing. It reminds us that the Earth isn't just blue skies and green forests. It has a wild side, a burning, boiling, alien side, a place where rules bend and nature gets a little weird in the best way possible. If you ever find yourself wide awake at night, wondering if our world still has secrets left to show you, remember the Danakil Depression, a place too hot for comfort, too colorful to be real, too strange to be forgotten, and somehow still alive. Now, as the mental images of glowing green pools and lava lakes flicker in your imagination, allow your thoughts to settle. You've just wandered through one of Earth's most impossible wonders. Let that awe melt gently into calm. Take another deep breath, and let's drift onward. Blue lava, Kawah, Indonesia, a volcano that glows with electric blue flames at night. Sulfur burns instead of rock, and the air itself seems alive. Imagine standing on the edge of a mountain just before dawn. The world is quiet, the stars are still out, and a gentle mist hangs low over the earth. Then, as your eyes adjust to the darkness, you see it flickering blue light, dancing like ghostly fire over black rock. It doesn't make sense at first. Lava isn't supposed to be blue. Fire shouldn't look like that. And yet here it is, glowing softly like something out of a dream. Welcome to Kawah Ijen, a volcano unlike any other in the world, nestled on the island of Java in Indonesia. By day, it looks like any other volcano, a massive crater holding a bright turquoise lake, surrounded by gray rocky ridges. But at night, it transforms into something magical. This is where the earth breathes fire that burns blue. But let's clear something up. The blue lava isn't actually lava in the traditional sense. What you're seeing is sulfur gas. Deep beneath the mountain, molten sulfur seeps out of vents and cracks in the rock. As it escapes, it meets the oxygen-rich air and ignites. The flames can reach over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to make the air shimmer. When it's dark, these flames appear electric blue, a color so rare in nature it feels like a trick of the eyes. Sometimes the burning sulfur is liquid, flowing down the slopes like a glowing river of ink. Other times, it clings to the rocks in bursts of flickering flame, casting a strange alien glow on everything around it. The sight is hypnotic, otherworldly, like the earth is dreaming in neon. But beauty comes at a cost. The air around Kawah Ijen is heavy with sulfur dioxide, a gas that stings the eyes and burns the throat. The smell is sharp and sour, like rotten eggs multiplied by 1,000. It's not just unpleasant, it's dangerous. And yet, every day, workers climb into the crater to mine the yellow sulfur by hand. They carry chunks of it on their backs, breathing through scraps of cloth, their faces hidden behind simple masks. They do it to support their families, to bring something out of this strange glowing mountain that the world needs. And still, the volcano keeps burning. Tourists hike in the dark to witness the flames, starting before midnight so they can reach the summit by 2 or 3 a.m., just in time for the fire show. Flashlights bounce along narrow trails. Quiet conversations drift through the night. And then, as they reach the crater's edge, silence, just the soft crackle of fire, the whisper of wind, and that blue glow pulsing in the darkness like a secret the earth is trying to keep. It's not the kind of place you forget. There's something about the color blue, soft and cool, peaceful and mysterious, that doesn't belong in fire. And yet here, it shines, it glows, it dances. In the harshest of environments, something beautiful emerges, something rare, something that doesn't make sense and doesn't need to. That's the magic of Kawah, Ijen. It reminds us that Earth still has surprises, that not everything can be explained, that sometimes the most extraordinary things happen in the most dangerous places. Blue fire, burning air, a volcano that glows in the night like a dream come alive. As you settle deeper into rest, let that image flicker behind your eyelids, a quiet mountain breathing blue, a place where even fire chooses to be different. Let it remind you that wonder still exists, even in the darkest places. Now breathe in and out. Let the quiet blue light guide you deeper into calm, the eye of the Sahara, Mauritania, a perfect circle over 25 miles wide in the desert, visible from space, once mistaken for Atlantis, but no one knows how it formed. In the vast golden emptiness of the Sahara Desert, where sand stretches endlessly in every direction and the wind has sculpted dunes for thousands of years, there is something hiding, something enormous, something perfectly shaped as if drawn by the hand of a giant artist. They call it the Eye of the Sahara, and once you see it, you never forget it. Its real name is the Richat structure, but that doesn't quite capture the magic. From the ground, it's hard to notice. It just looks like layers of rock and ridges. But from above, especially from space, it reveals itself in full, a set of concentric rings, wide and strange, like a giant spiral pressed into the earth. It's almost 26 miles across, so wide it could hold an entire city and still have room to breathe, and it's almost perfectly circular, like the bullseye of a target or the eye of a watchful god carved into the desert floor. No one is completely sure how it got there. For many years, scientists thought it must be the scar of a massive meteor impact, a place where something from space came crashing into Earth, leaving behind a perfect crater. That made sense. The shape matched, the size matched. But as researchers studied the rocks more closely, they realized there were no signs of the intense pressure or melted materials you'd expect from an impact. So, not a crater. Then some proposed it was an ancient volcano. Its cone collapsed and eroded over millions of years. But again, the evidence didn't quite line up. No lava flows, no volcanic rock in the center, just layers upon layers of ancient sedimentary rock, curled into a spiral like a fossilized fingerprint of the earth itself. And so, the mystery remains. Some believe it's the result of natural uplift and erosion, that the center was pushed up from below, like dough rising in the oven, and wind and rain slowly wore it down into circles. That might be true, but when you look at it, really look, you can't help but feel there's more to the story. The eye is so large that astronauts on the International Space Station use it as a landmark when passing over Africa. It's visible from orbit. That's how enormous and distinct it is. A monument not built by human hands, but carved slowly by time and nature, or something else. Over the years, the eye has been linked to legends. Some researchers even suggested it could be the lost city of Atlantis, described by Plato as a circular city made of concentric rings of water and land. According to that theory, the sea dried up, the walls collapsed, and the desert eventually buried the rest. It's not widely accepted by scientists, but the idea still tickles the imagination. And really, how often does Earth draw a near perfect circle that lasts for millions of years? There's something calming about its shape, the symmetry, the simplicity. In a world full of jagged mountains and chaotic coastlines, the eye of the Sahara is soft, rounded, deliberate, like a ripple frozen in stone. No roads lead directly to it. It's surrounded by heat, silence, and dust. The kind of place where time moves slowly, where nothing grows, and the only sound is the wind whispering across the sand. It's not a tourist spot, it's not easy to get to, but it's there, quietly watching, as it has for ages. As you lie back tonight, drifting between thoughts and dreams, imagine looking down from space. Imagine the silence of orbit, the deep black sky, the curve of the earth, and there it is, a soft spiral staring back at you. Mysterious, ancient, beautiful. The eye of the Sahara reminds us that Earth still holds secrets, even in the open, that sometimes the most extraordinary things are right beneath our feet, waiting to be seen from a new perspective. Now take another breath, deep and slow. We still have so many strange places to visit, and the journey is only just beginning. Catatumbo lightning, Venezuela, a storm with no rain, no thunder, just endless lightning that crackles across the sky up to 280 nights a year. In the northwestern corner of Venezuela, near the edge of Lake Maracaibo, there's a place where the sky never quite sleeps. The stars try to shine, but they're constantly interrupted by flashes, white, purple, electric blue, cutting through the darkness like nature's own silent fireworks. This is the home of Catatumbo lightning. It's not just any storm, it's a light show without sound, a symphony of light with no thunder, no heavy rain, just bolt after bolt of pure glowing electricity up to 260 nights a year for 10 hours at a time. Imagine that. You're sitting by the lake. It's late, everything is still, the water is calm, and the jungle breathes its usual nighttime lullaby of frogs and rustling trees. And then flash, a jagged streak of light dances from cloud to cloud, then another and another. You blink, and the sky is alive, but it never growls, it just glows. Locals call it El Relampago, del Catambo, the lightning of Katumbo, and it's unlike anything else on Earth. Scientists believe it happens because of the perfect combination of geography and weather. Warm, moist air from the Caribbean Sea drifts in and gets trapped by the Andes Mountains. That warm air meets cool mountain breezes above the lake, and together they form an atmospheric loop, a never ending electrical dance that charges the clouds and fires off bolts of light. But even with all the science, the Catatumbo lightning still feels magical. It's been happening for centuries. Sailors in the 16th century used it to navigate in the dark. The lightning was so constant, it became a kind of lighthouse in the sky. At its peak, it can produce up to 280 lightning strikes per hour. That's one every 13 seconds, and yet strangely, no thunder follows. It's one of the quietest storms on Earth. Then one, just light, pure, flickering, silent light. Some nights, the lightning seems playful, tiny flashes behind clouds, like someone turning a flashlight on and off. Other nights, it turns dramatic, forked bolts that race across the entire sky, lighting up the lake in eerie colors. And all of it happens over and over again, every year. The Catatumbo lightning even holds a Guinness World Record as the place with the most lightning strikes per square kilometer in the world. But beyond the records in science, it has a kind of heartbeat. To the indigenous people of the region, this lightning is sacred, a sign from the heavens, a powerful reminder that Earth is alive and always watching. They've woven it into stories, legends, and songs, treating it not as a weather event, but a spirit in the sky. And truly, there's something spiritual about it. It feels like the earth is talking in flashes instead of words, like the sky has something to say, but it's whispering in light instead of sound. Can you imagine drifting to sleep in a small boat on the lake with lightning flickering silently above you like a cosmic lullaby? No thunder, no fear, just the sky blinking peacefully as if to say, I'm still here. Even during moments of calm, when the storm pauses, people wait and watch because they know it will return. It always does. The Catatumbo lightning is nature on repeat, not in a chaotic way, but like a rhythm, a breath, a steady reminder that even in darkness, light finds a way. As you close your eyes tonight, picture that soft sky glowing over the lake, the hush of the jungle, the reflection of lightning on still water. Let the rhythm of the flashes slow your thoughts like a metronome guiding you gently toward rest. No thunder, no rain, just light, always light. Will pour and still more wonders await. Let's keep drifting. Devil's Kettle, Minnesota, USA. Half of a river simply disappears into the rock, and no dye, GPS tracker, or scientific method has ever found where it goes. In the far north of Minnesota, hidden deep in the peaceful greenery of Judge C.R. Magny State Park, there's a river that plays a strange trick. At first, it looks ordinary, just a fast flowing stream weaving through rocks and trees like so many others in this quiet part of the world. But then, something happens. The river comes to a sudden fork. One half of the water tumbles over a rocky ledge and continues down its path, flowing gently toward Lake Superior, like any good river should. The other half, it vanishes right into a hole in the rock, and no one knows where it goes. This mysterious spot is known as the Devil's Kettle, and it has baffled scientists, hikers, geologists, and everyday nature lovers for decades. It's named after an old spooky idea that maybe this hole is a kind of cauldron, a secret boiling place deep inside the earth. Of course, it isn't actually hot, but the name stuck because it feels like the kind of place where the world bends the rules just a little. At first glance, it doesn't seem that unusual. Rivers fork all the time. Water flows into cracks, over cliffs, down gullies. But what makes the Devil's Kettle so puzzling is that the water going into the hole never comes out, at least not anywhere we can find. Scientists have poured colored dye into the hole, hoping it would reappear downstream. It never did. They've dropped ping pong balls into it, carefully marked and counted, gone. And even small GPS trackers have vanished, swallowed by the rock as if entering another world. It's as if the earth just takes the water and keeps it. Geologists have a few theories. One idea is that the water flows into a network of underground channels or caves carved into the ancient volcanic rock beneath the surface. Over time, lava tubes or cracks may have formed a secret riverbed beneath the visible landscape. Eventually, that water might rejoin the main river or seep into Lake Superior far downstream, though no one has ever found the exact spot where it resurfaces. Another theory is that the water flows into a deep fissure and from there into a series of underground fractures that are too small and too complex for us to trace. Some think the water never makes it out at all, that it's absorbed into the bedrock, trickling away drop by drop, lost in the dark for good. But here's the curious part. Even with all our modern tools, satellite imaging, and scientific methods, there's still no confirmed answer. In a world where we've mapped oceans, tracked storms from space, and even sent machines to Mars, a little river in Minnesota still holds a secret. It's humbling, isn't it? To think that right here on Earth, among tall pine trees and quiet forest trails, there's a place we can see but can't understand. A place where the rules of rivers seem to slip, just for a moment, into mystery. And that's part of what makes the Devil's Kettle so special. It's not dangerous or grand or glowing in the dark. It doesn't erupt or boil or scream for attention. It just vanishes, vanishes. Visitors come from all over to see it for themselves. They hike the trail, listen to the rush of water, and watch with wide eyes as half the river spills into the stone and disappears. Most leave with the same feeling, a sense of quiet awe, of wonder, of respect for the mysteries that still remain. And in a way, that's comforting. In our busy, data filled, over explained world, it's nice to know there are still places that don't give up their secrets so easily, that still whisper instead of shout, that remind us that curiosity isn't something to solve, but something to keep. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine standing beside that river, the sound of rushing water in your ears, the smell of pine in the air, watching the stream split in two, one side flowing on like normal, the other slipping silently into the rock, gone without a trace. Where does it go? Thou? Maybe no one knows, and maybe that's exactly how it should be. Let your mind follow it for a while, down into the stone, through the silence. And when you're ready, we'll surface again, somewhere strange and beautiful and just as unexplained. Let's keep going. Zone of Silence, Mexico. A desert triangle where radios die, compasses spin, and strange lights hover in the sky. Even animals act differently here. There's a quiet stretch of desert in northern Mexico where things don't quite behave the way they should. It's called the Zone of Silence, and even the name feels like a riddle. And tucked away in the Mapimi Desert, where the land is dry, flat, and golden under the sun, this mysterious triangle of Earth has puzzled scientists, travelers, and locals for decades. At first glance, it looks like any other desert, hot, dusty, and scattered with scrubby plants and stones. But step a little deeper into the zone, and strange things begin to happen. Radios stop working, compasses spin in circles, and signals vanish, and the silence becomes heavier. It's not the peaceful silence of a calm place. It's a strange, pressing stillness, as if something unseen is soaking up sound. Some visitors say their phones die for no reason. Others swear their watches go haywire. And even more have stories of lights floating, flickering, watching, hovering above the sands. It sounds like science fiction, but this is a real place, and its mysteries are just as real. No one knows exactly why this region behaves the way it does. One theory is that the magnetic minerals in the ground are interfering with signals, pulling on compasses, and blocking radio waves. The soil here is rich in iron and other materials that can bend energy in strange ways. Maybe it's just nature being quirky. But the oddness doesn't stop with equipment. Even animals act differently here. Some species that don't exist anywhere else seem to thrive in the zone. There are plants that grow in unusual patterns, desert turtles with bright markings, and people have reported seeing rabbits, lizards, and birds behaving in strange, erratic ways, starting and stopping as if unsure of what direction they're meant to go. Then there are the stories. Locals have long whispered about visitors from the sky, strange figures seen walking through the desert, tall and glowing, vanishing as quickly as they appear. Some say they've encountered people who speak perfect Spanish but wear strange clothing, and when they ask where they came from, the answer is always the same: from above. Of course, scientists don't confirm these tales, but they don't fully explain the area either. In 1970, a U.S. missile was accidentally launched from a testing site in Utah. It veered hundreds of miles off course and landed right in the heart of the zone of silence. It was meant to go nowhere near Mexico, yet somehow this mysterious patch of land pulled it in. No one could explain how or why. After that, interest in the area grew. Scientists came with tools and trackers. Journalists came looking for stories. But still, no answers. Just more questions, more silence. If you were to stand there right in the middle of the zone, you might not notice anything at first. Just dry air, open sky, and the hum of heat rising off the sand. But then your radio crackles and dies. Your GPS freezes. A soft ringing might settle in your ears, and you might feel, just for a second, that something unseen is watching. Not in a scary way, with more like the desert itself is curious, like it knows something it won't tell. To this day, people still report strange lights in the night sky above the zone, moving in patterns that don't match satellites or planes, changing color, darting silently, then disappearing without a trace. Whether it's energy, magnetism, or something we don't yet understand, the zone of silence lives up to its name, not just because it kills signals, but because it refuses to explain itself. It simply is. And that, in its own quiet way, is what makes it so beautiful. Not everything in nature needs to be loud or dramatic to be extraordinary. Some places whisper instead of shout. They slip past our instruments, dodge our theories, and leave us standing still, just listening. So as you lie there tonight, drifting off, imagine standing in that quiet triangle of desert, the sky stretching endlessly above you, the air perfectly still, the stars blinking gently, and somewhere in the distance, a faint light moving across the horizon, too fast, too smooth, too quiet to name. Let your mind rest in that silence, in the mystery, and in the knowing that even on our own planet, there are still places where the map fades and wonder takes over. Now breathe in and out. The ca- Let's keep going. Mual Cave, Romania. Romania feud, sealed for over 5 million years, breathing poison and yet full of creatures who evolved in complete isolation from the sun. Deep beneath a quiet field in Romania, there is a cave unlike any other on Earth. You won't find it on most travel lists. It isn't grand or filled with crystals. There are no glowing lights or wide open caverns. In fact, it's dark, tight, dangerous, and almost completely cut off from the world above. This is Mual Cave, and for over 5 million years it was completely sealed off. No sunlight, no fresh air, no connection to the outside world at all. When scientists accidentally discovered the cave in 1986, they didn't know what to expect. A group was surveying the land for a power plant and stumbled across a small opening. Curious, they dug deeper and uncovered something extraordinary. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. The air inside Moval Cave is toxic to humans. It's low in oxygen, high in carbon dioxide, and filled with hydrogen sulfide, a gas that smells like rotten eggs and can be dangerous even in small amounts. The smell hits first, then comes the tightness in your lungs. Breathing becomes difficult. Without proper gear, a human can't last long in this environment. And yet, life thrives here. That's what makes Moval Cave so astonishing. It's like a hidden laboratory created by the planet itself, a time capsule sealed before humans ever walked the Earth. Inside, scientists discovered over 50 species of creatures, many of which exist nowhere else in the world. Tiny, pale, and blind, these creatures have evolved in total darkness. Without sunlight, they don't need eyes. Without fresh air, they've adapted to breathe the cave's strange toxic atmosphere. Some are insects, some are spiders. There are centipedes, leeches, and even a type of water scorpion that lives in sulfur rich pools. Most of them have no color, because in complete darkness, color doesn't matter anymore. Instead of relying on plants for food, like most ecosystems do, life in Moval Cave depends on bacteria. These bacteria don't use sunlight for energy. Instead, they use chemosynthesis, a process where energy is created from chemicals in the air and water like methane and sulfur. In other words, this is an ecosystem without the sun, a whole world that exists in secret, proving that life can survive in the most unlikely places. Some scientists believe that studying Moval Cave could help us understand how life might exist on other planets. Mars, for example, doesn't have breathable air or sunlight on the surface, but beneath the ground, maybe, just maybe, something similar to Moval's microbes could be hiding there. And here's the quiet, fascinating part. This strange cave sat undisturbed beneath the earth for millions of years, doing its own thing, completely unaware that anything else existed. While dinosaurs went extinct, while mountains rose and fell, while humans built cities and wrote books and sent rockets to the moon, Movable Cave stayed the same, breathing its poison air, nurturing its own alien life, hidden just beneath our feet. Even now, scientists are extremely careful about who can enter. The cave is fragile, its ecosystem delicate. A single breath of outside air, a single mistake, could damage something we've only just begun to understand. That's why only a few people in the entire world have ever been allowed inside, and most of us will never see it in person. But that doesn't make it any less real. Well, you peak Samals or Muvil Cave reminds us that our planet is still full of secrets, that beneath the surface, where the light doesn't reach and the rules are different, life can find a way. It doesn't need to be bright or beautiful to be extraordinary. Sometimes it just needs time, stillness, and silence. So tonight, as you drift into rest, picture that hidden world below, a warm, dark place where tiny creatures crawl and swim through invisible gas, where bacteria hum silently in the water, where no one sees, but everything continues, peacefully, quietly, in the dark. Let your thoughts settle like soft dust in that cave. Let your breath slow with the rhythm of a place that doesn't rush. And remember, even in the darkest, strangest corners of Earth, life can bloom. We still have more wonders ahead. Let's keep going. Magnetic hill illusions. En wordt boor vermaakt weer de debentard. En wordt boor veel. En bet en bags en bel aid 10. Vermaakt niel dread I that expired. In places around the world, cars roll uphill and water flows in reverse, confusing the senses and questioning gravity. Imagine driving down a quiet road on a calm, sunny day. You pull over near the bottom of a small hill, shift your car into neutral, and take your foot off the brake. Instead of rolling down like gravity normally demands, the car starts rolling up the hill. No engine, no push, just moving uphill. It feels like a glitch in reality, like something is wrong with the world's invisible rules. But this isn't a trick of your car. It's not a prank or a staged illusion. This happens in multiple places across the planet, and it has puzzled travelers, scientists, and thrill seekers for generations. They're called magnetic hills, gravity hills, or sometimes just mystery spots, small stretches of road where things move in ways they shouldn't. Water appears to flow uphill, balls roll backward, cars slide the wrong way, and people find themselves leaning at odd angles without realizing it. At first glance, it looks like the laws of physics are being broken. One of the most famous examples is Magnetic Hill in Ladakh, India. Drivers stop at a marked spot, shift to neutral, and watch as their cars slowly move uphill against what appears to be the natural slope. Some say there's a magnetic force beneath the ground, tugging at metal and pulling the car forward. There's also a magnetic hill in Moncton, Canada, where families have been visiting for decades to witness the strange sensation of moving uphill without doing anything at all. From California's mystery spot to Cyclops Hill in Poland and Electric Bray in Scotland, these strange illusions have appeared all over the world. And though the names change, the experience is often the same: disbelief, laughter, and a bit of quiet awe. So, what's going on? Is there a magnetic force hidden beneath the surface? Is gravity bending in weird ways? The real answer is simpler and sneakier. It's all about optical illusion. You see, our eyes and brains are trained to read the environment using clues: the slope of the land, the position of trees, the angle of the horizon. But in these special places, the landscape plays a clever trick. The horizon is tilted, the surrounding ground is uneven, and your brain gets confused. The slope you think is uphill is actually downhill, and the slope you think is downhill is actually flat, or sometimes even uphill. It's like standing in a room where everything is slightly crooked, but so subtly that your eyes can't quite catch it. Your brain fills in the blanks incorrectly, and suddenly gravity seems to misbehave. But even when you know it's an illusion, the experience is still unsettling. Watching a car roll uphill or pouring water that flows the wrong way still makes your instincts pause. It's a reminder that our senses, though powerful, aren't perfect. They can be fooled, and sometimes the world isn't what it looks like. That's what makes magnetic hills so fascinating. They don't glow or roar or explode. They don't threaten or surprise. They simply make you question what you see. And that's one of the quietest, most powerful kinds of mystery there is. Children often love these places. They laugh as their bikes roll the wrong way, or as they lean sideways and feel like they're standing upright. Adults, too, pause and scratch their heads. For a moment, everyone becomes a little kid again, surprised by the world and wide eyed with curiosity. And isn't that what wonder is all about? Even when science explains it, the experience still feels magical, like the earth is playing a tiny joke, nothing serious, just a playful nudge to remind us that we don't know everything. So tonight, as you sink deeper into rest, imagine standing on a quiet road where nothing is quite as it seems. The trees lean ever so slightly, the horizon tilts just a bit. You pour water onto the pavement, and it flows uphill like a gentle trickle of disbelief. You close your eyes and feel the ground beneath you, Not quite wrong, but not quite right either. It's peaceful, it's strange, it's a place where gravity whispers instead of pulls. And it reminds us that sometimes the smallest illusions are the ones that stay with us the longest. Now, take a breath, soft and slow. Let the strangeness of this little hill settle into your dreams. We've still got many more wonders to explore. Let's keep going. Skeleton Lake, India. Nestled in the Himalayas lies a frozen lake filled with ancient skeletons that surface only when the ice thaws. High in the Himalayas, far above the treetops and clouds, lies a quiet frozen lake. It's small, no wider than a shallow pond. It sits quietly among rocky cliffs and snowy peaks, hidden away at nearly 16,000 feet above sea level. Most of the year, it's frozen over, covered with ice, silent and still. You could walk right past it without giving it a second thought. But when the summer sun finally melts the ice, something strange happens. Bones appear, hundreds of them. Skulls, ribs, leg bones, skeletons, scattered all around the lake and at the bottom of its crystal clear waters. This mysterious place is called Rupkund Lake, but most people know it by a much eerier name, Skeleton Lake. And for decades, it has puzzled scientists, historians, and trekkers alike. Why are there so many skeletons in such a remote place? Who were these people? What happened to them? And why did they all seem to die together in this one lonely spot? The first official discovery happened in the 1940s when a British forest ranger stumbled upon the lake and saw bones poking out of the ice. At first, he thought they might be Japanese soldiers who had tried to sneak through India during World War II, but the bones were much older, ancient, in fact. When researchers examined the remains, they discovered something even stranger. The skeletons weren't all from the same time period. Some were over 1,200 years old. Others were more recent, and the people didn't come from the same place either. Some had genetic roots in South India, while others seemed to have come from far away, possibly even from the Mediterranean region. It was as if multiple groups of people, separated by both time and distance, had all died in the same location. But how? One theory suggests that these people may have been pilgrims, walking through the mountains to visit a sacred site. Rupkund Lake sits along an ancient trail once used for religious journeys. Perhaps a group was caught in a severe hailstorm with ice balls the size of cricket balls, striking with such force that people died instantly. This theory gained support when many of the skulls showed signs of trauma to the head, but not the rest of the body. No signs of battle, no weapons, just sudden blunt force injuries, almost as if the sky itself had turned violent. It's a haunting idea that a group of travelers, singing and walking through the misty mountains, was suddenly caught in a storm so powerful that it left no survivors. And the lake held their memory, quietly beneath the ice, for over 1,000 years. But that's not the whole story. In recent years, scientists used DNA testing and radiocarbon dating to analyze the bones more deeply. What they found surprised everyone. The skeletons belonged to two or more completely separate groups who died centuries apart. One group was South Asian, and another, shockingly, seemed to have genetic traits linked to the Eastern Mediterranean. That's right, some of the people found in Skeleton Lake may have come from places like Greece or Crete, nearly 4,000 miles away. How did they end up in a small Himalayan lake? That part remains a mystery. Some believe they were part of a royal expedition. Others think it may have been a failed attempt at crossing the mountains for trade or adventure. A few suggest that something sacred once drew people here, a forgotten pilgrimage route, or ritual site now lost to time. Whatever the truth may be, Skeleton Lake refuses to give up all its secrets. And maybe that's what makes it so powerful. Today, Rupkund is a popular spot for brave hikers and mountain trekkers. It takes days to reach, and the journey isn't easy. Thin air, rocky trails, and unpredictable weather make it a challenge. But those who arrive at the lake describe the experience as quiet, eerie, and deeply moving. To see the bones lying there, sun bleached and scattered, is to feel a chill deeper than the cold wind. It's a reminder of how small we are, how strange our stories can be, and how the earth can keep a secret for centuries before revealing it, only for a moment when the ice finally melts. So tonight, as you settle into sleep, imagine standing at the edge of a clear frozen lake. Snow crunches beneath your feet. The air is still. The mountains loom above you like giants at rest. And in the water below, the past stirs quietly, whispering stories we still don't fully understand. Take a deep breath, let it all sink in. Island of Eternal Fire, Mount Semeru, Java, a volcano that erupts almost every 20 minutes, like a ticking geological time bomb that never stops. There's a place on Earth where the ground never quite rests, where the sky is always painted with a little ash, where deep within the earth, something ancient and powerful is always stirring. A place where time is marked not by minutes or hours, but by eruptions. This is Mount Semeru, the tallest volcano on the island of Java, Indonesia, and one of the most active in the entire world. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't pause, it simply keeps erupting every 20 minutes or so, day and night, as it has for years. Locals call it Mahameru, which means the Great Mountain, and it lives up to its name. From a distance, it looks majestic, standing tall above the clouds, its peak wrapped in mist and steam. But if you wait and watch, you'll see it begin to stir. First, a rumble beneath the surface, then a deep, low growl, and finally, a plume of ash and smoke bursts into the sky like a signal from the earth itself. And then it happens again, and again, like a heartbeat, like a ticking clock, like the planet breathing fire. Mount Semeru has been erupting regularly for as long as people have been keeping records, but it doesn't erupt in massive explosions like some volcanoes. Its eruptions are smaller and more frequent, releasing clouds of ash, lava rocks, and hot gas with incredible consistency. You might think that living near such a volcano would be terrifying, but for the people of Java, Semeru is a part of life. Its eruptions are not just something to fear, they're something to respect, something to respect, something to prepare for, something that gives and takes all at once. You see, volcanic ash, though dangerous, also makes the land incredibly fertile. The soils around Semeru are rich and dark, perfect for growing crops. Farmers tend their fields in the mountain's shadow, children play in villages nearby, and every 20 minutes or so, the mountain speaks again, sending up another puff of smoke into the sky. Some travelers call it the Island of Eternal Fire, not because it's always burning, but because the fire inside it never truly goes out. Semeru's activity is part of a larger system. Java sits on what scientists call the Ring of Fire, a belt of volcanoes and earthquake zones that circles the Pacific Ocean. This ring is one of the most geologically active places on the planet. Tectonic plates beneath the surface are constantly moving, colliding, and sliding beneath each other. When that happens, pressure builds, and eventually it must be released. Mount Semeru is one of those release points, a place where the earth lets off steam, literally. Climbing Semeru is possible, but not easy. Trekkers must pass through dense forests, ash covered slopes, and fields of black rock. The climb takes hours, and the air becomes thinner the higher you go. But those who reach the summit say it's like standing on the edge of another world. You can look down into the crater where glowing rock sometimes flickers like a distant fire. You can feel the heat, and if you're lucky or unlucky, you might witness an eruption from just a few hundred meters away. It's both breathtaking and humbling, but the mountain must be approached with caution. Even small eruptions can be dangerous. Falling rocks, hot gas clouds, and ash can turn deadly in moments. Authorities monitor the volcano closely, watching for signs of larger eruptions and warning local villages when needed. Yet, even with all that risk, people stay. Why? Why? Because this is home, and because Semeru, despite its constant fire, is a symbol of strength. It reminds people of the balance between destruction and renewal, between danger and life, between fear and beauty. As you settle in for the night, imagine standing near the base of that great mountain. The sky is dark, and the stars twinkle overhead. Then, without warning, a deep rumble rises from the ground. A cloud of smoke lifts into the air, lit from below by a soft orange glow. And just like that, the earth speaks again, quiet, steady, powerful. Then silence. And a, and a few minutes later, it speaks again. Mount Semeru is a reminder that our world is alive, that beneath our feet, something ancient and powerful is always moving, not to frighten us, but to remind us that life in all its beauty comes from change. Let that rhythm calm you. Let the steady breath of the volcano echo in your chest as you breathe deeply and softly. The world is still turning, the fire is still burning, and you are safe right here, listening in wonder. Let's keep going. Bird suicide grounds, Jatinga, India. Birds dive straight down at night without warning or cause, year after year. The sky opens and they fall. There's a tiny village in northeast India where something deeply strange happens almost every year. It's a peaceful place, nestled in the green hills of Assam, where the air smells of rain and tea leaves, and the breeze rustles quietly through bamboo trees. But when the monsoon season ends and the nights begin to grow cooler, something shifts in the skies above. Birds begin to fall from the sky, not just one or two, but dozens, sometimes hundreds. Perfectly healthy birds flying through the night and then suddenly diving straight toward the ground, crashing into buildings, trees, or the cold, damp earth. Some die on impact, others are found stunned, wings trembling, unable to move. No one knows why they do it. This strange and haunting event has happened for over a century in a place called Jatinga, a small village of fewer than 2,000 people. Locals have long believed the birds were bewitched, possessed, or drawn by spirits. The phenomenon happens only during specific times, in the late monsoon months, usually between September and November, and only in the evening hours between 6 and 9 p.m. It's eerie, it's sad, and it's still not fully explained. More than 40 species of birds are involved: migratory birds, local birds, large birds, small birds. Some are insect eaters, some are fruit lovers. All seem to suddenly lose control mid-air and plummet. But only in one small strip of land, less than 2 miles long, along the ridges near Jatinga. It's as if something invisible is pulling them down. Locals first noticed the event in the early 20th century. At first, they thought it was some kind of curse. Then, for a time, they saw it as an opportunity, collecting the birds that fell, assuming they were offering themselves. But as the years passed and scientists started paying attention, they realized something much deeper was happening, something that didn't quite make sense. Researchers have offered theories, but none have solved the mystery completely. Some say the birds become disoriented due to thick fog, wind patterns, or the way the hills reflect low frequency sounds. Others believe the village's artificial lights confuse the birds, especially during moonless nights when the skies are darker and visibility is low. Birds, like many animals, use light and magnetism to navigate. If those signals are disrupted by weather, magnetic fields, or sudden flashes, they can panic and dive, trying to escape what they don't understand. But that still doesn't explain why only Jatinga. It doesn't happen in nearby villages. It doesn't happen across the region, just here in this narrow corridor in the hills. Even more strange, some of the birds that dive aren't even nocturnal. They don't usually fly at night, and yet something compels them to take flight after sundown, only to fall moments later. The villagers have learned to live with the event. In recent years, they've even tried to protect the birds, turning off lights, staying indoors, and educating others not to disturb or harm the animals. Conservationists now monitor the migration patterns closely, hoping to reduce the number of deaths. Still, each year when the season arrives, it happens again. The sky opens and the birds fall. It's been called avian suicide, but scientists hesitate to use that term. Suicide is a human idea, full of intention, emotion, choice. Birds don't think that way, at least not as far as we know. And yet, watching them dive from the night sky, one after the other, you can't help but wonder what they're fleeing or what they're flying toward. Are they chasing light? Are they running from sound? Are they trapped in some invisible corridor of confusion we don't understand? Or is nature simply reminding us that even the smallest creatures can experience something we can't explain? As you lie back tonight and listen to the hush of your own quiet room, picture the hills of Jatinga, green, misty, cradled by silence, and above them the birds soaring gracefully until suddenly the night bends around them and they fall. It's not just eerie, it's poetic, it's heartbreaking, and it's real. Somewhere out there, on a narrow stretch of land, nature is performing a mystery play we still don't understand. A silent ballet of wings and wind that ends not in applause but in questions. And as we drift deeper into tonight's journey, it's these mysteries, soft and strange and sad, that remind us just how much we still don't know. Let's keep exploring. Lake Abe, Djibouti, steam vents and limestone spires pierce the horizon. It's like standing on another planet, yet you're still on Earth. There's a place tucked deep in East Africa that looks like it was borrowed from another world, as if someone reached into a science fiction novel, pulled out a strange alien landscape, and gently placed it here on Earth. That place is called Lake Abe, and it's one of the most otherworldly corners of our planet. Located on the border between Djibouti and Ethiopia, Lake Abe is hidden in the middle of a vast dry land where almost nothing seems to grow. It's remote, it's hot, and it feels eerily quiet, like Earth itself is holding its breath. But what truly makes Lake Abe feel unreal are the tall limestone chimneys that rise from the dusty earth, hundreds of them, some as high as 150 feet. Sharp, twisted towers that jut up into the sky like broken fingers or ancient statues. From a distance, they look like ruins from a forgotten world, or the bones of a giant, long lost city. And between these towers, clouds of steam rise endlessly from deep underground. The air shimmers with heat, The ground bubbles in places. Sulfur lingers faintly in the breeze. It's not just strange, it's surreal. You could stand there, surrounded by boiling pools and smoking vents, and convince yourself you've landed on Mars or stumbled into a dream. And yet, this is very real. This is Earth, but Earth at its most mysterious. Lake Abbey is a salt lake, but not the kind you might imagine. It's shrinking, drying, and cracking into strange patterns. The water that's left is shallow and salty and often hard to spot from a distance. Some parts shimmer like glass, others are hidden by steam. The land around it is flat and cracked, almost like a giant pancake left too long on a hot skillet. But just when your eyes adjust to the vastness, the landscape suddenly breaks into those towering chimneys, rising from nothing. How did all of this form? The answer lies deep below in the Afar Triple Junction, a unique place where three tectonic plates are slowly pulling away from each other: the African, Arabian, and Somali plates. This constant shifting causes deep cracks in the Earth's crust, allowing geothermal energy to escape. Over thousands of years, steam and minerals pushed up through these cracks, depositing limestone that eventually built the tall spires we see today. Steam still rises from these vents because the Earth is still active here, still breathing. But there's more. Lake Abbey isn't just a geological wonder, it has a kind of mystical aura, too. Locals believe the place is haunted by spirits. Some nomadic tribes avoid it altogether, saying it whispers at night. Others believe it's sacred, a place where the earth speaks softly to those who listen. And honestly, it does feel like the land is whispering. The silence is deep, but not empty. The wind moves strangely here. The sound of boiling water in the distance carries through the spires like whispers in a canyon, and when the sun sets, the towers cast long, haunting shadows over the cracked salt flats, while the steam glows gold and pink in the fading light. At night, the sky above Lake Abbey is enormous and crystal clear. With no cities nearby, the stars come alive, blanketing the heavens in endless pinpricks of light. It's easy to forget you're still on Earth, easy to imagine you've stepped into another dimension where time doesn't tick, it stretches. Very few tourists visit Lake Abbey. It's hard to reach. There are no hotels nearby, no fancy roads, no cell phone reception. You have to drive across dry lake beds, sometimes guided only by tire tracks and instinct. But maybe that's the point. But places like Lake Abbey weren't made to be busy. They weren't made for crowds or cameras or gift shops. They're the quiet places, the places Earth hides from most of us. And when you finally stand there, surrounded by silence and steam and spires, it feels like you've been given a secret, one that most people will never see. So, as you lie back tonight, close your eyes and picture it: a cracked, silent plain, towers rising like forgotten monuments, steam curling into the twilight, the stars waking up overhead. It doesn't look like Earth, but somehow it is. And that's the beauty of the strange little planet we call home. It hides wonders in plain sight. It keeps mysteries tucked far away. And every now and then, it invites us to visit, just for a moment, and remember how strange and beautiful reality can be. Let's keep going. Well, let's keep Lake Baikal, Russia, the world's oldest lake, deeper than imagination, with clear frozen methane bubbles that look like trapped stars beneath the ice. Tucked away in the frozen heart of Siberia lies a lake so ancient, so deep, and so clear it feels like a place borrowed from another time. This is Lake Baikal, and it holds more secrets than any other body of water on Earth. On the surface, it looks simple: just a lake, surrounded by icy mountains and quiet forests. But beneath its surface is an entire world, one so strange and remarkable it shouldn't even exist. Let's start with its age. Lake Baikal is the oldest lake in the world. Scientists estimate it's over 25 million years old. That means it has existed through ice ages, the rise and fall of empires, and the shifting of entire continents. It was here before the mammoths, before the pyramids, before almost everything we know. And it's not just old, it's also deep, very deep. Lake Baikal is the deepest lake on Earth, reaching over 5,300 feet at its lowest point. That's more than a mile straight down. If you drop the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, into Lake Baikal, it would disappear completely, with plenty of water to spare. And the water? It's some of the clearest and purest you'll ever find. In the winter, when the lake freezes over, the ice becomes like glass. You can look straight down and see 50 feet below, as if the ice is just a thin window between you and a quiet alien world. But here's where it gets truly magical. In the coldest parts of winter, strange things begin to appear beneath the ice. Bubbles, dozens, hundreds, thousands of them. For clear, round pockets, trapped frozen methane hovering just beneath the surface like tiny stars caught in time. They shine when the sunlight hits them, glowing with a soft, surreal light. It's like walking across the sky, except the stars are beneath your feet instead of above. These frozen bubbles are formed by microorganisms deep in the lake that feed on organic matter and release methane gas. As the gas rises, it gets trapped in layers as the ice freezes. It's completely natural, but it feels anything but ordinary. Photographers travel from all over the world to see it, to lie flat on the frozen lake, peer down through the ice, and marvel at the stars locked beneath their boots. But the mysteries don't stop there. Lake Baikal is also home to creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Over 1,700 species live in and around the lake, and more than 60% of them are completely unique to Baikal. It's a natural laboratory for evolution, where isolation and time have created a biological wonderland. One of the most fascinating creatures is the Baikal seal, or Nerpa. It's the only freshwater seal in the world, and no one is quite sure how it got here. Some scientists believe it swam in from the Arctic through ancient rivers long ago. Others think it's a relic from a time when oceans stretched further inland. Either way, it lives here now, peaceful, pudgy, and mysterious. There are also translucent fish, tiny shrimp, and bizarre deep water life that thrive in Baikal's cold, pressurized depths. And deep down, scientists have even found thermal vents, cracks in the lake floor where hot water seeps out, supporting life that never sees sunlight. Just like the vents found in the deep oceans. Think about that for a moment. This isn't the ocean. This is a lake, but it's deep enough, active enough, and strange enough to behave like an entire sea. And in many ways, it is. Lake Baikal contains over 20% of the world's unfrozen freshwater. 1/5 of all the drinkable water on Earth is sitting quietly in this single lake in Siberia. It's no wonder the local people, especially the indigenous Buryat tribes, consider Baikal sacred. They speak of spirits in the water, of voices that echo across the ice, and of a sleeping power beneath the waves. It's easy to believe them, because when you stand on that frozen surface, when you look down through a foot of clear ice and see glowing bubbles and dark water stretching into forever, it doesn't feel like you're standing on a lake. It feels like you're standing on the edge of a secret. One so ancient, so quiet, and so impossibly beautiful, it humbles even the most modern mind. So as you close your eyes tonight, imagine it, the cold wind brushing your face, and the crunch of ice beneath your boots, and the stars. Yes, stars, not above you, but beneath your feet. And you, because sometimes the sky doesn't have to be up. Sometimes it's frozen in a lake, waiting patiently to be seen. Let's keep drifting. Sailing Stones, Death Valley, USA. Massive rocks leave trails across the desert, moving silently, impossibly, and without any visible force. Out in the heart of California's Death Valley, one of the hottest and driest places on Earth, there's a flat, cracked patch of desert called Racetrack Playa. It looks like an ordinary stretch of dusty earth at first glance, just empty, sun-baked land surrounded by rocky hills and cloudless sky. But something strange happens here, something quiet, something nobody fully understood for decades. Here, in this barren desert, giant rocks move, all by themselves. They slide across the desert floor and leave long trails behind them in the dirt, like slow motion footprints. Some trails stretch for dozens of feet, others crisscross like paths in a maze. Some curve gently, others turn sharply, as if the rocks changed their minds mid journey. And the strangest part? No one ever sees them move. And that the stones are heavy. Some weigh over 600 pounds, about the weight of a full grown grizzly bear. There's no wind strong enough to push them, no animals nearby that could drag them, no humans out in the middle of nowhere moving boulders for fun. For the longest time, scientists were baffled. Baffled? Theories floated around like desert dust. Maybe it was magnetic forces underground. Maybe it was earthquakes too small to feel. Some even joked that the rocks were alive, sleepwalking. Locals and visitors gave them a name, the Sailing Stones. And the name fits, because these rocks don't tumble or roll like you'd expect. They glide, gracefully, silently, leaving behind trails that curve and swirl like someone slowly dragging a finger through powdered sugar. Photographers began flocking to the playa, hoping to catch the mystery in action. But year after year, the stones stayed still during the day and moved only when no one was watching. It took decades, countless studies, and a bit of luck for scientists to finally begin unraveling the truth. Here's what they discovered. The desert may seem dry, but in rare moments, usually in winter, thin layers of rainwater can pool across the flat playa. Then, when the temperature drops, that water freezes overnight into a sheet of thin, almost invisible ice. Beneath the ice, the rocks sit quietly, waiting. As the sun rises, the ice begins to crack and melt, breaking into large floating panels. A light wind, just strong enough, pushes these sheets of ice gently, and as they slide across the wet, muddy ground, they nudge the rocks along with them. Very slowly, will and sometimes just a few inches per minute, but it's enough. And the rocks glide across the soft mud beneath the ice, leaving trails behind them as they move. Eventually, the sun melts everything, the ice vanishes, the water evaporates, the mud dries and hardens, and all that's left are the trails etched into the earth like secrets scribbled in sand. It's a perfect dance of water, ice, sun, wind, and time. But even knowing the science doesn't take away the magic, because there's something almost poetic about it. Massive rocks, quietly moving across a desert with no witnesses. Nature performing a miracle so slowly we barely catch it. It reminds us that not everything strange needs to be loud. Some mysteries are whispered, and some of Earth's most surprising wonders happen not with explosions, but with silence, patience, and perfect timing. If you ever visit Death Valley and walk across Racetrack Playa, you'll see them. The sailing stones, still, heavy, silent, but their trails, those long winding marks in the dirt, tell you everything. They moved when no one was looking. They danced with the desert and then froze in place like actors in a paused play. Some people come here and feel confused, others feel awe, but everyone feels something. Because in a world that always demands explanations, these rocks remind us that some questions don't need answers right away. Some mysteries are better experienced than solved, and contains pili or borndukel boy or lead, and plies turled. Kamativ tulko he, kapel bestball is probable plies twuk, bulko he keshen plies. That and proftian of delitted taking and dekvils, for poldvermos, or will it please bring your deef sumler ev the shitty. So as you lie there tonight, imagine them, the heat of the day cooling under starlight, the desert breathing softly, a thin layer of ice forming over quiet stones, and in that hush, a slow, silent slide, earth shifting, not with noise, not with warning, just with wonder. Let's keep drifting. Will fog forests, Mount Kinabalu, Borneo, high altitude forests wrapped in clouds. The trees breathe mist, and time seems to stand still in the silence. High in the sky, where the air grows thin and the world begins to quiet, there's a mountain in Borneo that holds one of Earth's most enchanting secrets. It's called Mount Kinabalu, and at first glance, it looks like a jagged stone crown reaching into the clouds. But hidden just below its peak, there is a place unlike anywhere else, a forest wrapped in mist, soft, silent, ancient. They call it a cloud forest, or sometimes a fog forest, but names don't quite capture it. And this is a place where the air doesn't just carry mist, it becomes it, where trees are constantly drinking from the clouds, and where light filters through the fog like a whispered memory. And if you listen closely, you'll hear almost nothing, just the faintest rustle of moss, a slow drip of water, the deep, living hush of a place that feels frozen in time. Mount Kinabalu rises over 13,000 feet into the sky, the tallest mountain in Borneo, but its real treasure lies in the cloud belt, a zone around 6,000 to 10,000 feet high, where moisture from the surrounding rainforest condenses and gathers. And here, in this cool, wet cradle of air, the fog forest thrives. Everything seems a little magical here. At so, the trees are short but dense, their trunks twisted by the wind and covered in layers of moss so thick they look like green coats. Ferns uncurl like sleepy fingers, orchids bloom in impossible places, and carnivorous plants, yes, little green hunters, wait silently for their next meal, using clever traps to survive in the nutrient poor soil. Even the branches look fuzzy, cloaked in epiphytes, plants that don't need soil, just air and mist to grow. They perch in trees like guests who never leave, sipping moisture from the clouds that drift endlessly by. It's cool here, damp, quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you want to breathe slower, walk gentler, you'd find speak softer, if at all. Many people say visiting the fog forest on Kinabalu feels like stepping into a dream, or like stepping back in time. Some of the plants and animals here exist nowhere else on Earth. Scientists call them endemic species, creatures so uniquely adapted to this cloudy little world that even a few miles down the mountain they would not survive. There are tiny tree frogs that sing in the mist, anagon sea, weird insects with see-through wings and camouflage so perfect you might mistake them for bark, and rare birds with feathers that shimmer in the gray light, calling out into the fog like guardians of a secret. But it's not just the wildlife that feels special. It's the feeling, that sense that the air is alive, not rushing or swirling, but breathing, as if the forest itself is gently inhaling and exhaling with you. Everything here runs slower. The moss grows at a pace you'd barely notice. Leaves fall silently to the forest floor, where they vanish into sponge like layers of living green. Even the rain is soft, more like a whisper than a splash. And when the fog thickens, oh, it can get very thick. It feels like the whole world disappears. No horizon, no edges, just you, and the forest, and the breath of the mountain. It's easy to lose track of time here. Minutes stretch like hours, and you begin to understand why some travelers say this forest pauses the clock. And for the native peoples of Borneo, Kinabalu has always been sacred. Some believe the mountain is home to spirits, that the fog is not just weather, but a kind of veil between our world and another. Maybe they're right, because in a place where the forest breathes and clouds brush your face, it's hard not to feel like you've stepped out of reality. So as you drift off tonight, imagine this. You're standing beneath a gnarled, mossy tree. A thin mist curls around your ankles. Above, the sky is hidden by fog, and light falls like soft silver through the branches. You take a breath, and the air tastes clean, cold, alive. You close your eyes, and the world fades into gentle gray. Here, time waits. In that, the earth breathes, and you are exactly where you're meant to be. Let's keep wandering. The Hummin, Taos, New Mexico. A low, constant sound only some people can hear, deep as the ocean, and impossible to explain. Some mysteries can be seen, others can be touched, but a few, the most frustrating ones, can only be heard by some people some of the time. In the small town of Taos, New Mexico, there's a sound, a strange low vibration, and not loud, not sharp, but steady, constant, and deeply unsettling. They call it the hum. No one knows where it comes from. No machine, no weather pattern, no obvious source. And the strangest part? Most people can't hear it at all. Only about 2 to 5% of Taos residents say they've ever heard it. But for those who do, it's not just a background noise. It's a part of their lives. They describe it as a deep droning rumble, like an idling truck engine in the distance, or like standing next to a giant invisible generator that never turns off. It's not loud enough to record. It doesn't show up on sound equipment, and it seems to vanish the moment you try to isolate it. But to the hearers, as they're sometimes called, it's very real. It keeps them up at night. It, it causes headaches, nausea, even anxiety. It's been described as a constant pressure, like the earth itself is humming, and your bones are picking up the signal. The human isn't just a Taoist thing either. There have been reports of similar sounds in Bristol, England, in Auckland, New Zealand, and in Windsor, Canada. But Taos is one of the most famous. Why? Because it's where scientists actually came to investigate. And in the 1990s, a group of researchers from Los Alamos National Laboratory The University of New Mexico and Sandia National Labs came together to study it. They interviewed dozens of locals who reported hearing the hum. They set up sensitive equipment, pure phantom. They tried to pinpoint the source, and and they found nothing. No consistent sound waves, no geological explanation, no underground machinery. Just people hearing something that shouldn't be there. Some scientists have suggested the human might come from low frequency radio waves, or from military communication systems, or even from tectonic movements underground. Others believe it might be biological, that the hearers are somehow picking up internal sounds like blood flow or muscle movement, amplified by quiet surroundings. And of course, there are theories on the edge of reason too: alien transmissions, government experiments, hidden energy fields, you name it. And- But none of it explains why some people hear it and others don't. Why the sound can follow you from room to room or even when you move houses. Or why it often seems strongest at night when everything else is quiet. One woman from Taos described it like this: "It's not in your ears, it's in your body, like a tension just under the skin." Another said, "It's like the earth is whispering something, but only a few of us are tuned to the right frequency." Can you imagine that? Living in a peaceful desert town surrounded by mountains and stars, and every day and especially every night, hearing a soft, relentless hum that no one else believes in? Some residents have even moved away to escape it. Others have tried white noise machines, special earplugs, or just learning to live with it. And yet, the mystery remains. So as you drift off tonight, think about this. Maybe the earth does have a human. Maybe we all used to hear it once, before our world got louder, before cars and phones and traffic and noise. Maybe some people, just a few, can still hear that ancient pulse, the planet's slow heartbeat beneath all the chaos. And maybe, just maybe, we don't need to explain everything. Good. Some mysteries aren't puzzles to be solved, and they're lullabies. Soft, strange reminders that the world is still full of secrets. So, if the night feels too quiet, or if you ever hear something low and deep that no one else notices, don't be afraid. It might just be the earth humming you to sleep. Let's keep going. Boiling river, Amazon, Peru. A river that runs hot enough to cook life, yet there's no volcano in sight. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, hidden beneath a thick green canopy and veiled by clouds of rising steam, there flows a river that defies the laws of nature. It looks ordinary at first glance, a winding, peaceful body of water surrounded by jungle vines and chirping birds. But if you step too close, you'll feel it. Heat, real heat. So hot, in fact, it could boil you alive. This is Tempishka, the boiling river of the Amazon. Its name means boiled with the heat of the sun in the local language. But the truth is, the sun has nothing to do with it. Because the water here doesn't just steam a little, it can reach up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's over 93 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cook a small animal or scald skin in seconds. And here's the most bizarre part: there are no volcanoes nearby, no known geothermal vents, belay, no bubbling magma chambers hiding underneath, just rainforest. In fact, the nearest volcanic activity is over 400 miles away. So, how does a river get that hot all on its own? Let's back up a bit. The boiling river first became widely known thanks to a Peruvian geoscientist named Andres Russo, who grew up hearing stories about a river that burns, and he assumed it was just a myth, a jungle tale told by locals. But when he finally followed those whispers deep into the forest, he found something that shocked even him. The river was real. Russo couldn't believe it. There was no major geothermal system nearby, no volcanic activity, and yet the river ran hot, not just in one spot, but for nearly 4 miles. He dipped a thermometer in. It read over 180 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to make water bubble and boil in places. What's even stranger is how deadly it is to anything that falls in. Russo described seeing a poor jungle creature, a small frog perhaps, tumble off a branch into the water. It didn't have a chance. And within moments, its body was cooking. The river doesn't rage or churn violently, but its heat is quietly lethal. And yet somehow life still exists around it. There are special microorganisms clinging to the rocks, tiny ecosystems that have adapted to this extreme heat. It's like a hidden laboratory for evolution, but the mystery still remains. Why is this river boiling? Some scientists believe it may have something to do with deep faults in the Earth's crust. Maybe water from rain and rivers seeps deep underground, far enough to get superheated, and then is pushed back up through cracks and faults. A kind of underground pressure cooker. But even that is a guess, and the geology of the region isn't fully mapped, and the river doesn't behave quite like other hot springs or geysers we know of. In fact, there's still no full scientific explanation. It's just boiling, in the middle of the jungle, far from fire, but burning anyway. The locals treat the river with respect. Some believe it has spiritual power. Others use the warm water for rituals or traditional healing, but everyone knows this river is not safe. There are legends too. Niu Ire, stories of spirits that guard the water, of ancient energies running beneath the jungle, pulsing upward to remind us that not everything on earth fits neatly into a textbook. So tonight, as you lie back and breathe slowly, imagine walking through the dense Amazon, the air thick and humming with life. Vigasai, and then you see it, a river, wide and quiet, steam rising off its surface like a morning breath. The water hisses gently. It smells faintly of minerals and warmth, and in that moment you realize you're standing next to something rare, something science doesn't fully understand, something alive, yet untouched by logic. A river that boils without fire, that scalds without warning, and flows through a world that still holds more secrets than answers. Maybe that's the magic of Earth. For all we've mapped and measured, it still surprises us. It still whispers, you don't know everything, and maybe that's a comfort, because mystery, like dreams, keeps the world wonderfully awake. Now, take another deep breath. Let the steam fade, and let's keep drifting. Glacier Caves, Mount Rainier, USA. Glowing tunnels carved in living ice, shimmering, deadly, and constantly shifting under your feet. High up in Washington state, where clouds kiss the mountaintops and the air grows thin and sharp, Mount Rainier rises like a sleeping titan. It's massive, snow-capped, quiet, but beneath its surface, hidden under thick blankets of glacial ice, something mesmerizing and slightly terrifying awaits. Glacier caves, tunnels of ice, cold cathedrals sculpted by time, wind, and meltwater, a world where the ceiling drips with frost and the walls shimmer in every shade of blue. They're beautiful, almost impossibly so, but they are also unstable, unpredictable, and constantly alive. Let's take a soft step into this chilly underworld. Mount Rainier is home to over 25 glaciers, making it one of the most glaciated peaks in the continental United States. These glaciers aren't just static sheets of frozen water, they're rivers of ice, slowly moving downhill, carving and reshaping the landscape as they go. And tucked beneath them are the caves, are the naturally formed, ever changing. They are created when warm air, volcanic heat, or flowing meltwater cuts channels through the glacier. Over time, the ice melts and refreezes, forming winding passageways that look like something out of a fairy tale or a dream. Inside, the world feels suspended. The light filters in faintly from small holes or entrance cracks, casting a ghostly blue glow. It's like walking through a frozen ocean where the water has paused in time but still ripples across the ceiling. You'll hear it too, the subtle cracking of ice. Peeding bully tagwartinsi. Peedings plekver sepalata the tagwarting peeding wop alive. Peeding web peedings plekvers or sold wobbling peedings plekver swimi. Peedings plekvers ulter and withing peedings plekvers with Fahrenheit. The slow drip of melting water. The creak of the glacier shifting above your head. Everything inside feels temporary, like you're inside a snowflake that might melt any second. And you kind of are. Glacier caves are some of the most dangerous natural structures in the world. They can collapse without warning. The floor beneath your feet might look solid, but underneath, water flows in hidden streams, reshaping the cave as you walk. Still, explorers and scientists are drawn to them. Some go to study the unique life forms that survive in these frozen places, microbes that thrive in the dark, feeding off minerals in the ice. Others go to listen, to measure the temperature, the sound of dripping water, the chemical makeup of air bubbles trapped in the glacier from centuries ago. These caves are like time capsules, storing secrets from Earth's ancient past. Some parts of Rainier's glacier caves even connect to volcanic steam vents, places where heat rises from deep within the earth, forming surreal pockets of warmth inside the cold. It's a paradox, a volcano beneath a glacier, heat inside a frozen shell. The contrast is both eerie and magical. And imagine that you're deep inside a tunnel of ice. It- the walls glow with pale blue light, smooth and curved like the inside of a seashell. Your breath fogs the air, and each step echoes against the frozen floor. You hear water dripping, then rushing, and then silence, pure, soft silence. You pause and realize you're standing inside a moving, melting masterpiece. And to glacier caves don't last forever. They're seasonal. They change shape. Some collapse after a few days. Others stay intact for years before vanishing. That's the haunting beauty of them. They are real but fleeting. Mild eye hungry, that with the real, that with a bats old. Tangible but delicate. A reminder that Earth is always in motion, even in its quietest, coldest corners. For those who explore them, the memory lingers long after they leave. Not just because of the beauty, but because of the feeling of being inside something that feels impossible, unnatural, and yet completely real. There's something poetic about it. A cave made of ice, sculpted by warmth, fragile yet formed by immense power. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine walking through those tunnels, your footsteps muffled by snow, your eyes wide from the light dancing off the walls, your breath slow and steady, fogging the still air. The glacier hums softly around you, not in words, but in ancient rhythms, and a lullaby of ice and time. And as you turn a corner and step out into the light again, you realize you were just inside a place that shouldn't exist, but it does, and it's unforgettable. Now, take a breath, let the cold drift away, and let's keep moving through the map of Earth's beautiful impossibilities. Marble caves, Chile, glacial waters carved marble into waves and spirals, forming caves that reflect light like gemstones. Down in the southern reaches of Chile, far from the cities and tucked between snow capped mountains and icy winds, there lies a lake so blue it looks painted. It's called General Carrera Lake, and deep within its shimmering waters, nature has been quietly working for thousands of years, carving one of the most beautiful and surreal wonders on Earth. They're called the Marble Caves, and they don't look like anything you'd expect from stone. These caves aren't dark or gloomy. Well, they glow, they shimmer, they reflect light in blues, greens, silvers, and even soft yellows, as if the lake has learned how to turn stone into stained glass. But this isn't art created by human hands. It's a masterpiece carved by water and time. The caves are made from solid marble, one of the most prized and beautiful stones on earth. But here, the marble hasn't been polished by machines or shaped by chisels. It's been gently smoothed by the glacier fed waters of the lake. Over more than 6,000 years, the waves of the lake have slowly swirled around the marble, hollowing out chambers and tunnels, creating arches and columns. Water pressed in, time passed, and without ever rushing, nature sculpted something extraordinary. Imagine a cave where the ceiling curves like a frozen wave, where the walls are smooth and bright, rippling with soft patterns that look like they were painted on, where sunlight from the surface dances across the water, casting glowing reflections that change with every cloud in the sky. That's the marble caves. The main formations are called the Marble Chapel and the Marble Cathedral, names that reflect their quiet majesty. Some visitors say it feels like standing in an underwater temple. Others say it's more like drifting through a dream. You can't get there by car or train, and the only way to see the caves is by boat or kayak. And because the lake is glacial, the color of the water changes with the seasons. In early spring, it's soft gray blue. In summer, it turns bright turquoise. And as the light filters through it, the walls of the cave transform too, from icy white to deep sapphire to glowing teal. It's like the cave is breathing color. No two visits are ever the same. Some days the water is calm and you can hear every drop echo inside the stone chambers. Other days, the waves splash gently and the sounds become a soft lullaby that bounces around the marble like a quiet song. There are no flashing lights, no signs, no voices, just you, the water, the marble, and the soft hush of wind brushing across the lake. And for a moment, it's easy to forget that this is even real, because these caves shouldn't exist. Marble is usually found deep underground, not floating on a glacial lake. It's fragile, vulnerable to erosion. Yet somehow, in this small corner of Patagonia, the conditions were just right. The balance of rock, water, and time created something rare, something so perfect that it feels like it came from another world. But it didn't. It came from Earth, our strange, wonderful, artistic planet. And maybe that's what makes the marble caves so unforgettable. They remind us that nature doesn't always follow the rules, that beauty can take 1,000 years to bloom, that even the hardest stone can become soft and gentle when touched by patience. So tonight, as you lie back and drift towards sleep, imagine gliding through those marble tunnels. Picture the soft rocking of a boat, the sound of a paddle dipping quietly into water, the glow of sunlight reflecting upward from the lake onto swirling stone, and the way everything feels still and peaceful and impossibly beautiful. You are in a cave made of marble, but it doesn't feel cold. It feels warm with color. In the inside of it, in warty caning, fermented poultry, turns ulich into the turst herself, alive with light, and silent in the most comforting way. In a world full of noise, these caves speak in color and calm. They whisper reminders of what time can shape when no one's looking. And as we leave the shimmering halls of the marble caves behind, we carry with us the wonder of something that shouldn't exist, but does. Gorsi, let's keep going. There are more marvels ahead. Champagne Pool, New Zealand, a steaming hot spring that bubbles like a glass of champagne, but it's laced with toxic arsenic and brilliant color. In the heart of New Zealand, tucked within the geothermal wonderland of Waiatapu, lies a pool that looks like it belongs in a fantasy painting. It shimmers with surreal color, it bubbles with an endless fizzy dance, and it gives off soft puffs of steam like it's gently sighing into the morning air. This is the Champagne Pool, a natural hot spring that has nothing to do with parties, but everything to do with wonder. It gets its name from the way it behaves. When you see it up close, the surface constantly fizzes and ripples, just like a freshly poured glass of sparkling champagne. But instead of coming from a bottle, these bubbles rise from deep within the earth, formed by carbon dioxide gas escaping through the hot, mineral rich water. It's beautiful, it's strange, and like many of Earth's oddest places, it's hiding a dangerous secret. Heuristic. Let's talk about the colors first, because that's what will catch your eye before anything else. The center of the pool glows a deep blue green, like liquid jade. That's because of the high concentration of silica and minerals dissolved in the water. Surrounding that is a thin ring of bright orange, like rust or flame. This colorful edge is made of arsenic and antimony sulfides, poisonous minerals that create vibrant hues, but are definitely not something you'd want to touch. Outside that, the landscape is dusted with yellow and white, as if powdered with chalk and sulfur. Steam rolls across the surface, soft and ghostly, making the whole pool feel like it's exhaling secrets from another world. You might expect a place this colorful to smell sweet or fresh, but not quite. Because of the sulfur, the air around the champagne pool smells, well, a little like rotten eggs. It's the signature scent of geothermal activity. Not everyone finds it pleasant, but in a way, it reminds you that this landscape is alive, breathing, bubbling, and constantly changing. The pool itself is about 65 meters wide, that's over 200 feet, and around 62 meters deep, though it's hard to tell exactly what lies beneath. The water temperature stays steady at around 74 degrees Celsius, which is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to burn skin and cook food instantly, and yet it doesn't boil away. That's because the minerals dissolved in the water raise the boiling point, allowing it to stay in a constant state of simmering, carbonated calm. It formed over 700 years ago, following a hydrothermal eruption, a powerful underground explosion caused by water heating up rapidly beneath the Earth's surface. When the pressure got too high, it burst through the ground, creating a deep crater. Since then, the pool has filled with rainwater geothermal gases, and minerals, slowly transforming into the glowing basin we see today. And here's where it gets even more mysterious. Despite the toxic chemicals and high temperatures, microbial life has been found living along the edges of the pool. Yes, life, tiny organisms called thermophiles have adapted to thrive in conditions that would kill most living things. They cling to the mineral rich crust, feeding on the elements we consider poisonous. To them, this strange environment isn't hostile, it's home. Scientists study these microbes closely because they might offer clues to how life began on Earth, or even how it could survive on other planets. Because when you look at the champagne pool, it doesn't feel entirely Earth like. The bubbling, the colors, the smell, the quiet hiss of steam. It feels like something you might discover on Mars or in the clouds of Venus, but it's here, on our planet, and just waiting to be seen. Visitors to Waiotapu walk along wooden boardwalks that wind past the pool, careful not to stray too close. The steam can shift suddenly, and the edge is fragile. But standing there, breathing in the warm mineral air, you can't help but feel humbled. Because this isn't a man made spa or a fantasy painting, it's a natural wonder that formed all on its own. A champagne glass sculpted by the earth. And though it's toxic, though it simmers with heat and danger, it's also beautiful in that strange, almost paradoxical way that nature often is. So tonight, as you lie back and listen, imagine standing beside it, steam curling past your cheeks, the soft pop and fizz of gas escaping from below, colors shifting with every change of light, and that quiet reminder that Earth still has mysteries we don't fully understand. The champagne pool doesn't sparkle for attention. It simply exists, a fizzy, fiery, alive, a place that shouldn't exist but does. Let's keep going. There are still stranger places to visit. The Upside Down Waterfall, India. Wind blows so fiercely it reverses gravity, or so it seems. Water flies upward into the sky. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, watching water cascade down in a beautiful white stream. Only instead of falling, it rises, not splashing to the ground below, but floating up, twisting midair, and lifting into the sky like smoke. This isn't a dream or a camera trick. It's real. It- It's called the Upside Down Waterfall, and it happens in Nanagot, a rugged mountain pass tucked into the western Ghats of India. At first glance, Nangarhat looks like any other scenic cliffside. The region is known for its lush green hills, monsoon mists, and ancient trade routes carved into stone. But during the rainy season, something strange happens, something that breaks the rules of how we think the world should work. The rain pours down, the rivers swell, and the waterfalls, instead of obeying gravity, defy it. So, how is this possible? The secret lies in the wind. When strong monsoon gusts whip through the narrow valleys and canyons, they gather incredible speed. These winds rush up the cliff face at just the right angle and with just the right force. When a waterfall begins to pour down, the air below pushes against it so powerfully that the falling water is lifted right back up. It's as if nature hit the rewind button. The stream doesn't fall, it soars. From a distance, it looks like the earth is upside down, like gravity forgot something. The water twists and dances in midair, forming spirals and curtains of mist that stretch upward instead of downward. The wind doesn't just carry droplets, it launches them. Some of the spray drifts into the clouds, blending with the fog until you can't tell where the waterfall ends and the sky begins. If you're standing nearby, the mist clings to your skin, cool and whisper soft, like being touched by a ghost. It's mesmerizing, and it feels impossible. Local hikers, travelers, and curious scientists have all stood there watching it happen. Phones come out, videos are filmed, and even though they're seeing it with their own eyes, the question still hangs in the air. How is this real? But it is. The upside down waterfall isn't just one location, it's a phenomenon. And though Nanagat is the most famous, similar events have been reported in places like Kilt Rock in Scotland, Waipuya Falls in Hawaii, and Mount Waileel, anywhere wind, height, and water collide just right. Still, something about Nanagat feels special. Maybe it's the dramatic cliffs carved from volcanic rock. Maybe it's the rich green valleys stretching out below. Or maybe it's the sense of timelessness of watching a simple element like water do something so completely unexpected right in front of you. It's a reminder that Earth, even in all its order and logic, still loves a little mischief. There's even an old local legend that speaks of the mountain's spirit playing tricks with the rain, tossing it back into the clouds as if to say, try again. And standing there in the middle of the monsoon mist, with your hair whipped by wind and your eyes blinking through the spray, you might start to believe it. Now, of course, there's a very logical scientific explanation for it all: upward air pressure, velocity, gravitational force, and the angle of the drop. But logic doesn't make it any less magical. And that's the beauty of it, because nature doesn't have to break the laws of physics to make us feel like it did. So tonight, as you lie still, close your eyes and imagine the sound, not of water falling, but of it rising, a soft rush of air. Deschampom, a stream turned to mist, pure, a waterfall in reverse, and reverse. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet mountain pass, watching gravity give up just for a moment. The earth doesn't flip upside down, but your sense of reality might, because, and that's what makes it beautiful. So, let's keep going. There are even stranger places waiting, each more impossible than the last. The stone forest, China. Pillars of rock rise like petrified trees, shaped by erosion that should have worn them down, not carved them upward. Imagine walking through a forest, but not one filled with leaves or birds or rustling branches. Instead, every tree is made of solid stone. They stretch high into the sky, sharp, jagged, towering shapes frozen in place. No bark, no roots, just gray, ancient pillars that stand like statues, reaching upward in silence. This is the stone forest of Yunnan Province, China, a natural wonder that looks more like a lost world from a dream than something shaped by ordinary forces. Locally, it's called Shilin, which means stone forest in Mandarin. And when you first step into it, the name makes perfect sense. From a distance, the giant limestone spires resemble tall, slender trees. Up close, they form a maze of narrow passageways, caves, and sharp cliffs. Some pillars lean toward each other like they're whispering secrets. Others stand alone, stoic and silent, like guards from a forgotten time. But how did they get here? Willow, here's where things get strange. But scientists say this forest began about 270 million years ago, back when the region was covered by a vast, shallow sea. Over time, thick layers of limestone formed beneath the water, layers rich with minerals and marine fossils. Then the sea vanished. Tectonic forces pushed the seabed up into the air, exposing it to the wind and rain, and that's where erosion began, its slow, invisible magic. But here's the twist: Instead of smoothing the rock down, the erosion sculpted it upward, carving deep grooves, slicing through cracks, and leaving behind tall columns that look too deliberate to be accidental. Rainwater, slightly acidic, seeped into the limestone and slowly dissolved it. But instead of wiping the surface clean, it wore away everything around the hardest stone, sculpting intricate towers, ridges, and peaks. It's as if nature became a patient sculptor, chiseling away for millions of years. And the result? A towering stone forest that doesn't look like erosion happened. It looks like something was built. Many visitors say it feels like walking through the ruins of an ancient stone city, one too old and too perfect to have been made by human hands. Others say it reminds them of a petrified jungle, frozen in time after a giant spell was cast. There are legends here too. The Yi people, an indigenous group native to Yunnan, tell stories of forbidden love that turned to stone, of immortals who walked the earth, and of a girl named Ashima who became one with the forest after fleeing from an unwanted marriage. One of the pillars is even said to resemble her silhouette, facing the wind, forever standing tall. When the wind whistles through the spires, the sound echoes like distant voices, and in the soft mist of morning, the stone pillars fade in and out of view like ghosts, half there, half imagined. The forest changes depending on the time of day. In the early light, it glows silver and blue. By noon, it casts sharp, bold shadows, and in the evening, the rocks blush with soft golden tones as the sun sinks behind the hills. At night, under the moonlight, it feels otherworldly, still, endless, ancient. And yet, even with all this beauty, the science remains a little stubborn. Geologists understand the basics: limestone, water, erosion, uplift, but no one can fully explain why this region developed such tall, thin spires instead of flattening out like most eroded limestone landscapes. Other similar places exist, like Madagascar's Tingi or the pinnacles of Australia, but nothing is quite as massive or as intricate as the stone forest. And perhaps that's part of the magic, because sometimes the most fascinating places are the ones that don't fully explain themselves. And you're so tonight, as you drift off, imagine wandering through a quiet forest where no leaves fall and no branches sway, where stone trees reach for the sky in perfect stillness, where each turn of the path reveals a new shape, a new shadow, a new wonder. It's a place that shouldn't exist, but it does. Carved not by hand, but by time, not with tools, but with wind and rain. And every towering stone is a reminder that nature, in its quiet patience, can build things just as grand and sometimes more mysterious than we ever could. So rest easy, traveler. The journey isn't over yet. There are still more impossible places to see. Enchanted. Well, Brazil. A cave pool so clear and blue you can see 60 feet down, but it looks like you're floating in the air. Tucked away in the heart of Brazil, far from the noise of cities and the hum of highways, there's a place that feels like a quiet miracle. It's not loud, that it's not even that big. But the moment you see it, something inside you pauses, like your thoughts just want to sit still and stare. They call it Poço Encantado, or the Enchanted Well, and when the light hits just right, it's easy to believe the name. This hidden cave pool sits deep inside a limestone cavern, carved gently by nature over millions of years in Brazil's Chapada Diamantina National Park. From the outside, it might seem like just another rocky entrance, but once you step inside, and your eyes adjust to the cool dimness, you see it. A glowing pool of pure blue water so clear it doesn't look like water at all. It looks like air, like someone painted the bottom of the cave with soft blues and silvers. Like the rocks and tree branches at the bottom are floating in space, untouched by gravity. And yet, that's water. What 60 feet deep and crystal clear. So clear, in fact, that when people dive in with masks and fins, they appear to be suspended midair, like they're drifting in a dream. There are no ripples unless you move, and no bubbles unless you breathe, and no tricks, just light, water, and stillness. But how is this possible? It turns out the magic starts with the water itself. The enchanted well is fed by underground springs, which filter the water through layers of rock before it reaches the pool. These natural filters remove almost everything: dirt, minerals, tiny floating particles, leaving behind ultra clear water with nothing to cloud it. Then comes the sunlight. At a certain time of day, usually in the late morning or early afternoon, a narrow beam of sunlight slips through a crack in the cave roof. It travels through the dark like a quiet spotlight and lands directly on the surface of the pool. That's when the magic really happens. The light dives into the water, bounces off the smooth white limestone bottom, and reflects back up through the cave, making the entire pool glow electric blue. A surreal, soft, glowing blue that doesn't quite feel real. It only lasts for about 2 hours a day during just a few months of the year. But when it happens, visitors often fall completely silent. Even the guides lower their voices. It feels like stepping into a secret, one that nature has kept hidden, only showing it when the angle of the sun is just right. And here's another wonder. Even though the cave is hundreds of feet underground, the water is surprisingly warm. It's not boiling or hot like a spring, but it has a calm, steady temperature that makes the cave feel cozy instead of cold. The cave itself is also full of strange beauty, with its walls shimmer with mineral veins, the rocks look smooth and ancient, the ceiling arches like a cathedral carved by time, not hands, and the only sounds are your own breath, the drip of a distant drop of water, and the quiet murmur of awe. Now, some people say they feel different inside the enchanted well, lighter, slower, like time has stretched out and wrapped around them in a gentle embrace. And maybe that's because everything here feels slightly off in the most perfect way. The air smells clean and damp, the light bends in strange ways, and nothing, absolutely nothing, feels rushed. Of course, scientists can explain most of it. The clarity comes from the rock, the light comes from the sun, the glow is just a trick of reflection. But explanations never quite erase the feeling, because seeing it, standing at the edge, watching the water glow like liquid sapphire, it still feels like you've stepped into a fairy tale. And maybe that's okay, because not everything needs to be broken down into facts to be real. Some places, just like some dreams, are better left a little mysterious. So tonight, as you breathe gently and let your thoughts float free, imagine dipping your toes into a glowing pool where the world seems upside down, where you can see the bottom but can't quite believe it's there, where light dances on stone and water becomes air, and time takes a deep breath and pauses beside you. This is the enchanted well, and though it shouldn't exist, not like this, not this perfect, it does. Quiet, blue, impossible, and waiting. Now rest, dear dreamer. There are still more wonders to discover. Fly Geyser, Nevada, USA, An accidental alien garden of color and steam formed by a drilling mistake that tapped into Earth's hidden power. In the middle of the Nevada desert, where nothing much seems to happen and the ground stretches flat and dry for miles, there's a place that doesn't look real. Not even a little. At first glance, it looks like someone dropped a glowing coral reef onto the desert floor. Three rocky towers rise from the earth, stacked like melted candles. Water sprays gently from their tips in steaming jets, and their surfaces shimmer in wild colors: deep red, bright green, electric yellow, and rusty orange. It's not the kind of thing you'd expect to find in the middle of nowhere, and but there it is, but breathing, bubbling, almost humming with life. They call it the Fly Geyser, and believe it or not, it wasn't supposed to be there. It all began back in 1916 when a group of men tried drilling a well. They were searching for water for farming, digging down into the earth to tap into groundwater. What they found wasn't exactly what they expected. Instead of fresh water, they hit geothermal pressure, superheated water from deep underground. It came bubbling up, far too hot to use, so they plugged the well and moved on. But Earth doesn't always like being patched. In the 1960s, another team tried drilling again, a few hundred feet away, this time looking for energy, maybe hoping to tap into the heat as a natural resource. Again, they hit hot water. This time, when it started to spray, they didn't plug it properly, and the earth took over. Slowly, steadily, the hot, mineral rich water continued to push up through the cracks, and as it did, it began to build something. Something strange, something beautiful. Over time, the minerals in the water, especially calcium carbonate and silica, started to harden as they hit the air. Layer by layer, they formed the cone like shapes we see today. Not smooth or perfect, but rippled, crinkled, and stacked like a melted birthday cake left in the sun. The colors? That's the work of thermophilic algae, tiny heat loving organisms that thrive in the hot water and paint the geyser in brilliant shades depending on the temperature. Green, where it's cooler, red and orange where it's hotter. Nature's own paintbrush. And the water? It still sprays, not like Old Faithful with powerful bursts, but in a steady, gentle arc. It mists into the air, creating a glowing halo when the light hits just right. In the early morning or late afternoon, the steam drifts like ghostly ribbons. You half expect to see fairies or aliens tiptoeing around the edges. Surrounding the geyser, the land is soaked with water. Pools form in the low spots, and tiny terraces build up from the same minerals, making the area look more like Iceland or Mars than Nevada. It's worth repeating, this wasn't planned. It wasn't protected for years by a national park, and it wasn't carved by glaciers or sculpted by volcanoes, and it was a mistake. A drilling accident that opened a secret door into Earth's geothermal heart. And yet, out of that mistake came something otherworldly, a strange garden of color and steam, a place that doesn't quite belong, at least not here, not in the middle of a dry desert. Today, the Fly Geyser is on private land, but you can visit with permission. It's not heavily commercialized or filled with crowds, and it's quiet, still, mysterious. People who visit often say the same thing. It feels like standing in front of something alive, not a machine, they, not a statue, but a breathing, bubbling life form from another world. And maybe that's why it captures the imagination so deeply. because it reminds us that the earth is always creating, even when we mess up, even when we're not trying. Sometimes beauty bubbles up from the ground when we least expect it. So tonight, as you lie back and close your eyes, imagine standing before a tower of steaming colors, warm mist on your face, a rainbow underfoot, and the hum of the earth whispering quietly in your ears. It shouldn't be here. It wasn't supposed to exist, but it does. And just like dreams, it rose quietly from below, a soft mistake that became a masterpiece. Let that image drift with you now. As strange as it is, it's real. And somewhere in the Nevada desert, it's still glowing. The double tree of Casorzo, Italy. A cherry tree grows directly out of the top of a mulberry tree, both thriving against all logic. In the quiet countryside of northern Italy, tucked between vineyards and rolling hills, there's a little roadside surprise that seems to break every rule of how trees and maybe nature itself are supposed to work. It's called the double tree of Casorzo, or in Italian, Bialbero di Casorzo. At first glance, it might not look unusual. Just a tree, maybe even a beautiful one, and but look again. Growing tall and sturdy is a mulberry tree, an ordinary sight in this region. But perched right on top of it, like a tree sitting on another tree's shoulders, is a cherry tree, fully grown, blooming, living its best life. Yes, you read that right. A cherry tree is growing out of the crown of another tree, not beside it, not next to it, right out of it. With, from the road, it looks like a single tree with two very different kinds of leaves. But step closer, and you'll see there are two distinct trunks, two root systems, and two sets of branches, and two sets of branches. One begins in the ground, the other begins in the sky. It's not a graft. It's not a trick. It, and no one planted it this way on purpose. It just happened. Scientists call this kind of thing an epiphytic tree. That's when one plant grows on top of another. We see this all the time with moss, ferns, or little flowers growing on tree trunks or rocks. But full-size trees? Not so much. The cherry tree likely started when a bird dropped a seed into the mulberry's crown, probably tucked into a clump of dirt or stuck to a bit of moss. With a little water and a lot of luck, that seed sprouted. It grew. Normally, a tree planted that way would run out of room, soil, or nutrients, but not this one. Somehow its roots found a way, reaching down through the hollow center of the mulberry, all the way to the ground. They wove around and through the older tree like nature's plumbing system. And now, both trees are alive, both are healthy, and they live in balance. In the spring, the cherry tree bursts into white and pink blossoms, floating high above the green mulberry leaves like a floral crown. In the summer, the mulberry grows heavy with fruit, and in the fall, both trees turn color together, one shedding from above, the other from below. The whole sight feels impossible, like something from a fairy tale or a scene from a forgotten dream. Visitors from all over the world stop to see it. Many of them just stare. Some laugh. Some shake their heads and mutter that it can't be real. But it is, and it's not just beautiful, it's resilient. And because to survive, that cherry tree had to do the impossible. But it had to grow from almost nothing. It had to stretch, dig, reach, and twist its roots through another living body without harming it. And it had to keep doing it year after year. There's something quietly profound about that. It reminds us that life doesn't always follow the rules, that sometimes the most amazing things happen by accident. That growth can come from unlikely places. Two very different trees sharing one life, not as rivals, not as invaders, and but as partners, one giving support, the other bringing beauty. If you didn't know the story, you might just call it a lucky mutation. But maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a soft little miracle growing by the roadside, a reminder that the world is still full of surprises. That cooperation is possible, that even when something shouldn't exist, it sometimes still does. So tonight, as you settle into your pillow and drift toward sleep, imagine this unlikely pair, one tree reaching up to the sky, the other holding it steady from below, together in quiet harmony. It shouldn't have worked, but it did. And just like that, you're already dreaming. Sleeping Lady Mountain, the earth that rests weak. Sometimes nature pauses, it softens, and in that stillness, it shapes something quietly human. Far from bustling cities and noisy roads, tucked between clouds and treetops, there's a moment in the land that feels like a breath held, a hush in the earth, a silhouette that isn't carved by machines or myths, but by time, by wind, by rain. Not she's called the Sleeping Lady. Not one place, but many. She lies in the Kawah mountain range of Hawaii. She stretches through Palawan in the Philippines. She rests beside Anchorage, Alaska, as Mount Susitna. And in every version of her, no matter where she sleeps, you see her, a gentle outline stretched across the skyline. Her forehead, her nose, that the rise of her chest, the curl of her knees, her arms resting as if in a dream. It's easy to dismiss it at first glance, just a ridgeline, just hills. But then the shape clicks, and your mind connects the dots, and suddenly she's there, sleeping, the watching, remembering. To in Hawaiian legend, the sleeping lady was a goddess who fell in love with a warrior. When he went off to battle and never returned, she lay down in grief and never rose again. The land rose around her, sealing her heartbreak in stone. Some say she dreams of his return to this day. In the Philippines, near Cleopatra's Needle in Palawan, locals say the mountain is a sacred woman, a guardian of the forests, a reminder of balance between humans and nature. She sleeps to protect what is still untouched, still pure. Pure, pure your downy teeth. And in Alaska, Mount Susitna looms just across the water from Anchorage. The Denanina people tell a tale of star-crossed love between the sleeping lady and a warrior who vanished during a great flood. She waits for him to return before rising once more. Different stories, different lands, same shape, what the same silence. It's not just folklore that makes it fascinating, it's the fact that these mountains really do look like her. This isn't imagination dressed up as myth. It's erosion and tectonics somehow sculpting a human figure from miles of rugged earth. No tools, no blueprints, but just the patient hands of time, folding rock into form. Geologists say it's all coincidence. Beat slopes aligned just right, to light and shadow playing tricks on our minds. But maybe there's more to it. Maybe we see the sleeping lady not just because she's there, but because some part of us needs to, needs a symbol of rest, a reminder that even the earth knows when to lie down. to be still, to sleep. She becomes something more than a mountain, and a mother, a memory, a mystery wrapped in moss and mist. And people do feel something when they see her. Tourists stop mid hike to stare. Locals nod toward her with a quiet sense of familiarity. Artists sketch her, and the poets write about her. Children name the shapes they see in her curves. She's constant, yet different in every season. In spring, she's wrapped in green. In autumn, her edges glow gold and amber. In winter, she slumbers beneath a blanket of snow, a true sleeping figure beneath the clouds. Even satellites orbiting above can trace her outline from space. And whether you're in the tropics or near the Arctic Circle, there she is, unmoving, unbothered, unforgettable, iving herse ufelif, onoring on pipong, os rate pipong or pipong hord ter corbig sprig calves, by the law hitting those player iglitus that was. Waketing wakewerk be her mila sheen, and rike of the sprumb i the Brits belazed. What's most enchanting isn't that these mountains exist, it's that they invite stillness. They ask nothing of you. No loud wonder, no breathless amazement. Duh. Just quiet noticing. They don't erupt. And they don't roar. They rest. And maybe, in a world that never seems to pause, that's the real magic. So tonight, as you drift into your own sleep, imagine her, the great sleeping lady, resting beneath stars, her breath as slow as the tides. She's not waiting. She's not weeping. She's simply being. And in that peaceful shape, we're reminded it's okay to lie down. It's okay to rest. Even the mountains do. They love and just like that, you're already dreaming. Underwater waterfall illusion. Mauritius, where the ocean seems to fall into itself. Sometimes, nature creates a trick so convincing, so surreal, that even science pauses for a moment just to blink. Just off the southern coast of Mauritius, a small island in the Indian Ocean, there's a sight that feels like a dream caught in motion. It looks like the ocean is collapsing, like someone has cut a hole into the floor of the sea, and now the water is tumbling down into a vast blue abyss, a massive underwater waterfall, flowing endlessly beneath the waves. Only, that's not really what's happening, but your eyes won't believe it. The first time you see it, whether from a photo, a drone shot, or if you're lucky from a plane above, it stuns you. Turquoise water fades to deep emerald, then plunges into a rich dark blue swirl. The colors stretch and funnel like liquid silk, creating the illusion of depth and downward motion. It looks alive, moving, cascading, and for a moment you genuinely believe the ocean is falling into itself. But here's the trick. What you're seeing isn't a waterfall at all. It's an optical illusion, a masterpiece of light, sand, and color created by the ocean floor and its currents. Beneath the surface of the ocean near Le Morne Brabant, the seafloor gently slopes down into a deep coastal shelf. This creates a natural dip in the seabed, a sort of underwater valley. Over time, strong currents push lighter colored sand from the shore into this deeper trench. As the sand flows and settles, it mimics the movement and appearance of water falling downward. From above, the gradation of color caused by the depth of the water, paired with the sand flowing below, tricks the brain into seeing a vertical drop, just like a waterfall. The result? A perfectly natural mirage, one of Earth's greatest optical illusions. And unlike most illusions that disappear the closer you get, this one becomes even more beautiful. People have called it many things, and the ocean's trapdoor, the drain of the world, a portal to the deep, even the edge of Earth's bathtub. It's playful, a little eerie, and strangely calming all at once. You know it's not real. Speed here, but that doesn't make it any less magical. And that's the charm. It feels like Earth having a quiet laugh, and as if the planet decided to paint a prank so beautiful we wouldn't even mind falling for it. This illusion can only truly be seen from above, which means unless you're flying in a helicopter or viewing satellite images, you'd swim over the area completely unaware. To someone standing on the beach, it just looks like the ocean, calm, blue, ordinary, but from the sky. It's art, and that makes it even more special because it's one of those secrets Earth only shares when you look at it from the right angle. It's not loud, it doesn't announce itself, it just sits there, quietly being incredible. And here's something even more poetic. Right near this underwater illusion stands Lemorne Brabant, a mountain with a heavy history. It was once a refuge for escaped enslaved people, and today it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So, in the same spot, you have two powerful reminders, one of nature's playful beauty, the other of human endurance and hope. It's a place where illusions and truth exist side by side, where what you see may not be what's real, but what you feel, that wonder, that awe, that's always real. So tonight, as you close your eyes, picture yourself floating above the Indian Ocean. The water stretches out in every direction, and below it seems to fall endlessly into a world you cannot touch but can always imagine. Maybe you reach for it, maybe you don't, because some mysteries are best left just beyond the surface. Let your thoughts drift gently like sand in the current. And remember, even the sea knows how to pretend. And sometimes, the most beautiful things in the world are the ones that aren't even real. And let's keep dreaming. Socotra Island, Yemen, an alien garden at the edge of the world. There's a place on Earth that doesn't feel like Earth. It feels like a forgotten chapter from a fantasy novel or a dream someone had and left behind on a map. It's an island where trees bleed red, plants grow in twisted spirals, and nothing looks quite the way it should. That place is Socotra, tucked away in the Arabian Sea off the coast of Yemen. Socotra Island is one of the most isolated and unusual places on the planet. And if you ever visit, it may feel like you've stepped off Earth and onto another world. The first thing that catches your eye is the dragon's blood tree. It doesn't look like any tree you've seen before. Its branches grow upward like an umbrella flipped inside out, wide, thick, and tightly packed, as if someone glued broccoli to the top of a trunk. Its bark is pale and smooth, but what's inside? That's what gives it its name. When cut, the tree oozes a deep crimson resin, thick, sticky, and red like blood. Ancient cultures believed it had magical powers. Some used it for medicine, others for dye and incense. Even today, locals still collect the red sap and use it in traditional remedies. It's haunting, it's beautiful, and it's real. But that's just one of over 700 plant species found on Socotra, and a third of them grow nowhere else in the world. There's the desert rose, which looks like a tree with an elephant's foot and cotton candy on top. There's cucumber trees, bottle-shaped bushes, and succulents with soft green tubes, like sea creatures growing out of sand. Many of these plants evolved in total isolation, sculpted by time, wind, and drought. It's like nature had a blank canvas and said, let's try something new. Socotra has been called the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, and for good reason. It's not just the plants that are strange. The island is also home to rare birds, spiders, insects, and reptiles you won't find anywhere else. Some geckos sparkle under moonlight. They contain some birds sing in patterns that sound almost musical. And in the tide pools and cliffs, you'll find bright crabs, phosphorescent algae, and flying fish. It's like every corner of the island is whispering, look closer. The land itself adds to the illusion. There are white sand dunes that shift with the wind like silk, sharp limestone cliffs that jut out into the sea like the jaws of a giant, caves so quiet you can hear your breath bounce back to you, and rocky plateaus where nothing stirs until the wind begins to sing. Sometimes the ocean glows at night. If you're tiny plankton, light up the waves like stars spilled across the shore, and you're left wondering if the island is awake, quietly watching you in return. Despite its beauty, Socotra is still wild. There are no luxury resorts, no crowds, just a few villages, dirt roads, and people who've lived in harmony with the land for generations. They speak a language found nowhere else. They gather herbs with care. They walk paths their ancestors walked, not out of nostalgia, but because they still work. It's a place where simplicity and mystery live side by side. And because it's so rare and untouched, UNESCO protects the island as a World Heritage Site. Scientists visit regularly to study the plants, the animals, the climate, even the soil. Every year, new species are discovered: tiny frogs, rare lichens, plants that curl at your shadow. It's proof that even in our hyper-mapped, satellite-covered world, there are still places that surprise us. So tonight, as you lie still, imagine standing beneath the twisted canopy of a dragon blood tree. The sun is setting. The wind smells faintly of salt and flowers. And the earth is dry but alive. You look out across the strange shapes and glowing colors, and it feels like the island is breathing with you, slowly, quietly, like it's holding on to secrets and letting you borrow just one. Socotra doesn't ask to be understood, it only asks to be noticed. And in doing so, it reminds us how wide, how weird, and how wonderfully impossible this world can be. Let's keep drifting. Sea of Stars, Vadu Island, Maldives, where the ocean turns to sky. There's a stretch of beach where the sea comes alive at night, not with crashing waves or roaring tides, but with light. Soft, flickering, impossible light, as if the stars themselves have fallen from the sky and decided to dance in the water instead. Welcome to Vadhu Island in the Maldives, home to the Sea of Stars. By day, this island feels like a postcard come to life. And warm sand, gentle breeze, turquoise water, so clear you can see the shadows of fish gliding across the ocean floor. But when the sun sets, everything changes. You're As darkness creeps over the horizon, the waves begin to glow. Tiny blue lights shimmer across the shoreline, sparkling with every ripple. It's not one big spotlight, it's thousands, maybe millions of tiny twinkles, blinking and glowing as the water moves. It looks like someone poured glitter into the ocean. Or maybe like the ocean decided it wanted a sky of its own. People have called it many things: the Sea of Stars, the ocean's mirror, or even the water that dreams. But it's not magic. Not exactly. It's bioluminescence. That word might sound complicated, but it just means living light. Certain living creatures, like fireflies, deep sea fish, and jellyfish, can glow naturally. And in the case of the Sea of Stars, the glowing comes from tiny plankton in the water, so small you can't see them one by one. But when they gather in huge numbers, they light up the sea. These tiny organisms, called dinoflagellates, react to movement. When a wave crashes, a foot splashes, or a boat passes through, they flash a glowing blue in response. It's their defense mechanism, a way of saying, I'm here, you startled me, but to us, because it feels like the ocean is alive, like it's breathing light. Imagine walking along the beach, and every step you take causes the ground beneath you to glow. Your footprints light up, then fade behind you. Your hand trails across the waves and leaves a glowing streak in its wake. Children laugh as they splash in the shallows, and glowing water swirls around their legs like fairy dust. A couple walks hand in hand, and the sea twinkles quietly beside them like stars, keeping secrets. It's peaceful, it's surreal, and it's unforgettable. The Sea of Stars doesn't shine every night. Conditions have to be just right, and warm water, calm skies, and just enough nutrients in the sea for the plankton to thrive. But when it happens, you'll know. You don't just see it, you feel it. You feel it. Some travelers describe it as the most romantic place on earth. Others say it's like standing in a dream. But everyone agrees, but everyone agrees, plating Bien, the youth bathroom, you never forget your first time seeing the ocean glow. Scientists still don't fully understand all the reasons why these plankton glow. Some theories say it helps them scare off predators. Others believe it's a byproduct of their metabolism. But no one's completely certain, and maybe that's part of the beauty. And that even in all our science and satellites and studies, the ocean still keeps a few secrets. Vadhu isn't the only place where this happens, but it's one of the most famous because here the water is clear, the nights are dark, and the stars above match the ones below. It's hard to tell where sky ends and ocean begins. You could lie back in the shallow waves and feel like you're floating through space, as if the earth itself paused for a moment, just to show you what wonder looks like. That the So tonight, as your eyes get heavy and your breath slows, imagine yourself standing barefoot on the soft sand. The moon is high, the world is quiet, and with every step, the ocean glows beneath you. You wade into the shallows. Tiny blue sparks swirl around your ankles. You reach down, and for a brief moment, you're holding starlight in your hands. Not in a dream, willed in a, not in a painting, to, but on a real island, in a real ocean, in a real ocean, for to discover, where the sea itself remembers how to glow. And as you drift off, maybe part of you still walks that shore, glowing, soft and quiet, in the sea of stars. Good night from the edges of reality, will where the strange becomes soothing and the impossible becomes bedtime. We've wandered through deserts that whisper silence, mountains that look like women dreaming, oceans that pour into nothing, and rivers that vanish into stone. We've seen light with no fire, caves with no sun, storms that never end, and stars glowing in the sea. All across this planet, there are places that feel like stories, but they're real. Places that don't follow the rules. Places that make you wonder if Earth is keeping a few secrets just for those willing to look. And maybe that's the real magic, that, in a world ruled by gravity, time, and logic, wonder still finds a way to bloom. So, as your head sinks deeper into your pillow and your breathing slows, I hope your dreams drift through glowing lakes, sleeping mountains, and skies lit by lightning with no sound. Because the planet you call home is far more mysterious than it pretends to be. And you, dear explorer, have only just begun to see it. Before you sleep, a gentle request, Nertal request. If this quiet adventure brought you peace, a yawn, or even just one wow, please tap the like button and subscribe to the Snoozy Scientist. It helps this tiny corner of the internet stay alive, and it lets me keep making these bedtime journeys for curious hearts like yours. Mope, drop a comment below and tell me which place stunned you the most tonight. Or share where in the world you're watching from. I read them all, and I love knowing where our sleepy little science circle reaches. And if you know someone who could use a little wonder before bed, send this video their way. After all, dreams are better when they're shared. Now, close your eyes. The world will still be mysterious tomorrow. But for now, let sleep take you gently to the edge of what's possible. Good night, dreamer. Good night, dreamer. And thank you for being here.